Hello, fellow explorers, and welcome back to the final missions report, exploring our solar system. Today, we are going to discuss the top five most interesting planets and also discuss some characteristics that make them weird and wonderful. So, let's get started. All right. So, the solar system was created over 4.6 billion years ago, of which now today are we have 8 planets in the solar system, but at some point there were 9. Sadly, Pluto was no longer considered to be a planet. Also, the 3 main types of planets are terrestrial planets, gas planets, and ice planets. And moving on. Oh, and before we move on, the top 5 planets of which we're going to discuss in order will be coming in at 5 will be Venus. Coming in at 4 will be coming in at 4 is going to be Mars. After Mars, we will have Jupiter, and after Jupiter, we'll have the Sun. So let's get started and see where we are. All right, Venus. The wonderful thing about this planet is that it was named after the Roman goddess of love, and it's the third brightest natural object in the sky, following after the sun and the moon. The weird thing is, the one thing that's weird about Venus is that it can be mistaken as an airplane or UFO. It is about 110 kilometers away from the sun. And then also, what's wonderful about this planet is that it's so bright we can see it in broad daylight. All right, and then next up is going to be Saturn. Saturn is 890.8 million miles away from the sun. Saturn still has, what's weird about Saturn is that it has storms such as us, like hurricanes. And then also, that Saturn's rings are actually small chunks of very nearly pure water ice, which orbit the planet independently. And then a wonderful fact about Saturn, which I realized, was that it has the most moons in our solar system. Next up is going to be Mars. Mars is about 200 kilometers from the sun. The wonderful thing about Mars is that it's it's so there's evidence that there was possibly life on Earth at some point there. Some weird things about Mars is that it travels outside the Earth's orbit and it never gets as closer than 60 million kilometers towards us. And then also, um, Mars is much colder than us, which I find a bit odd and weird. All right, and then next up we have Jupiter. Jupiter is located between Mars and Saturn and is about 483.8 million miles away from the sun. The wonderful thing about this planet is that it can be visible in the nighttime sky. Weird thing about this planet is that it rotates counterclockwise and the belts and zones move opposite from each other. Um, I think that one other weird thing about Jupiter is that it is actually the largest planet in our solar system, of which every other planet in our solar system could possibly fit into it, oddly. All right, and then last up, we have the sun. I think what's most wonderful about the sun is that the sun is actually considered to be a star. Our solar system happens to only have one sun, while others solar systems can have multiple. And then also the size of the sun is pretty average compared to other planets in our solar system, which I find a little weird since our solar system kind of is revolved around the sun itself. Otherwise, I think that the role of the sun is extremely important because it is constantly giving us energy produced by the core. Um, and then lastly, just overall, the most important thing about our solar system, I feel like, is just us on Earth actually taking the time to do the research and to explore the outer galaxy of which we live in. I do think that we should get into the planets of which we think life can be sustainable, just because I'm extremely curious to see if we can potentially carry out life on a different planet. Well, thank you guys for tuning in and um, have a good night.